Hello friends, this is Coldrun. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, where we're here in Radzatan, because there were a couple of these side quests I saw that cropped up that I want to check out. Again, if I like them, I'll show them. If they're kind of general, I probably will skip them, but we'll see. Excitable Youth. Do I want to do it? This I don't know that I can do this right now. I think I have to be in a very specific mindset for Manderville shenanigans. I think I want to be prepared for this. So I'm going to hold off on that for the moment. I'm going to hold off on that for the moment. We're going to come back to that definitely. Shirabat. So this is in the Hall of the Radiant Host. Bitter Snow. Is this going to be a wrap-up to the role quests? This might be. Like one of the quests that comes up when you've done all the role quests, like that sort of thing, maybe. Bitter Snow. The glint in Shirabat's eyes suggests she was hoping you might pass through. Shirabat. Well, if it isn't Kukushu, all-around good egg and champion of, well, the whole world, I suppose. Word travels fast, my friend. We've heard all about your exploits defeating the blasphemies that plague the good people of Eorzea and Doma. Sadly, there are other fell beasts that yet want for slaying, but fear not. Our efforts to bring them proceed apace, and we've had naught but glad tidings from our allies. In fact, we've recently received word from the resistance forces in Bosja that the blasphemy was slain, thanks to no small part to Lord Hien's timely assistance. I like that. I like that they're showing you that you're not the only savior of the world, that you certainly help a lot, but, you know, they're still doing stuff. Like, others are still doing stuff. Perhaps the most surprising report came from Werlet, where soldiers led by the infamous Black Wolf fought alongside Alamegan troops for yet another hard-earned victory. Excellent. I love that they're continuing that storyline, too. Reports from Garlemald, however, suggest another blasphemy threat lurks in the snows, and we've received a petition for assistance. The fifth blasphemy, or secret blasphemy. Strange, don't you think? When the effects of the final days began to spread in earnest, we encountered a great many monsters in Garlemald, but never a blasphemy. Which is weird, given the sheer quantity of despair there. And yet, to make matters worse, they say the Garleans who chose to remain and rebuild have begun transforming into yet more hideous creatures. So those who are already moving on are transforming? That's weird. From what I understand, it was you and your comrades who brought an end to the source of the final days. Is that right? It is correct. Even so, it would appear its effects will linger a while longer. Until this malevolent influence on Akasha subsides, I dare say this won't be the last time we hear of such sightings. As for the blasphemy... Right, so killing the Endwalker, the Endsinger... Killing the Endwalker, that's me. Killing the Endsinger definitely stopped the source of it, but she'd already caused quite a bunch of mischief, and that was already damage done, and that's still going on. We've reason to believe it is a great deal stronger than any we've faced thus far. Your strength and experience would prove quite valuable if you're willing to help, of course. I am willing. Why, of course I'll help. Is the Ilsabard contingent not equipped to handle this threat? I think this is a... I would normally say, why, of course I'll help. I think this is an information gathering question rather than a snark or, like, mean question. So I'm going to go with number 2 here. I should certainly think so. No sooner did we receive the request from Sharlayan than they began making preparations to dispatch their forces. That said, it was clear from the first that they were hoping you might also take up the hunt. Right, so it's not... They can help, but, like... It sounds like it's pretty big and they want me on their team anyway. Though if I may be frank, I was not expecting Sharlayan of all places to be so concerned with the present state of Garlemald. What with their strict policies of non-intervention? I mean, is that still their strict policy? Perhaps we'll find out the reason before all this is all over. So they have some special interest in this beyond... Sharlayan has some particular tie to this blasphemy. But that's an inquiry for another time. I'll not keep you any longer. Once you arrive in Garlemald, I should think the intelligence officer stationed there will be more than happy to apprise you of the situation. Okay. So we're in Garlemald. Maxima and Lucia are ready to talk to me. I like Maxima's like casual indoor garb. I don't think I've seen him with this few clothes on. Or this casual. It's good to see you, Kukushu. Though I wish it were under more fortuitous circumstances. Lucia. We were reluctant to call upon you, knowing you but recently returned from the far reaches of the heavens, but we are no less glad for your aid. Mm-hmm. Nod? Nod. Now then, I believe it is best if the man who first discovered this blasphemy explained the situation. She's getting on the bat phone. Oh. Okay. I thought it was just going to be generic soldier number 4, but no, this was Fortuno. Ah, Kukushu, good. We may forego introductions then. Thank you for answering our call. As for the situation at hand, it concerns a joint effort between the Forum and the Loporrits to find new purpose for the moon. Okay, I have no idea how this is going to involve a blasphemy. While there is no longer need for a vessel to evacuate the star, we believe the moon may prove of use to the people of Aetheris. After much contemplation, a rather ingenious proposal was put forward. To transform the moon into a repository for man's knowledge. An archive of hitherto unseen scale, I guess, but isn't it set up for, like, giant habitation quarters for a long time? Can't this solve, like, a huge amount of homelessness? Okay, I guess it could be an archive. Charlian has long had the honor of boasting incomparable repositories of the world's knowledge, but it is far from perfect. Should calamity befall us, natural or otherwise, the wisdom of ages we have long labored to preserve would be lost. But the moon is beyond any such risk. What's more, it's beyond the jurisdiction of any one nation. Yeah, it's on the nation of Loporrits. Thus did we consult the allied nations of Eorzea, the Far East, and Radzat Han. They agreed to assembling a survey team to take measure of the moon and its potential as a repository. Ah, okay. So they were going to warp up to the moon via Babel, right? Our plans for assessment were forestalled, however, by the presence of an entity we believed to be a blasphemy in the Tower of Babel. In the tower. Interesting. Maxima. Claims of Garlean citizens transforming into monsters shortly after its discovery only gave further credence to our initial supposition. Lucia. But we've not only ill tidings to share. Reinforcements have been dispatched to aid us in quelling the blasphemy threat. Maxima. Lord Artoirel and a member of Gridania's Keepers of the Entwined Serpents have already begun an investigation into the catalyst of these transformations. Good. They're not making me do the same. Like, they know the pattern. I've probably told them how all 4 of those things worked. We looked into it. We solved the despair and reached them through the power of friendship. Sort, not quite, but like, they know the pattern of what to try. Though the skies no longer burn and the spread of this affliction is much curtailed, we must remain vigilant. Until the blasphemy threat has been quelled, Alphino and Alizé have graciously offered to help calm the people of Tertium while we attend to the people here. So what do you need me for? Ah, yes, Lucia, but the matter of the blasphemy is not so easily resolved, I'm afraid. We recently met with certain complications that have hindered our plans. Yugiri and Fordola are presently deliberating over how best to resolve the situation. Okay. I am glad anything that involves Yugiri and Fordola I am into. Fortuno, I should like to join you if I may. As this endeavor was originally undertaken on Charlian's behalf, I feel it's my responsibility to see this through to its conclusion. Okay. Fordola, it's good to see you. Somehow I should have known you would turn up eventually. Oh, you know you're happy to see me. Yugiri. I did not expect to see you here of all places, but I am no less glad for your presence. I presume word of the blasphemy is what brought you here. in which case I believe it may be best if a member of the reconnaissance team's guard explained the situation. Someone we know? Fortuno, an acquaintance of yours? Oh, it's Lorenz from the Company of Heroes. This is the... He was the sniper, right? Long time no see, Lorenz. I'd heard tell you were the worldly sort, but bugger me if I know where you heard my name before. I'm just a lowly sword for hire, hoping to fatten my purse with a touch of mercenary work after taking my leave from Limsa. The job sounded simple enough, but... well, I'm sure you wouldn't be here if it were way... Yeah. Okay, so... And this is the sniper guy, right? I think it is. But you didn't come all this way to hear about me, did you? The Blasphemy we're after is making its nest in the upper reaches of the Tower of Babel. The auxiliary sector, I believe it was. The auxiliary sector, I think by that he just means the part that wasn't originally the palace. The part that was like jerry-rigged scrap into like the top of it. But it wasn't alone. A sizable horde of beasts were circling about like knights protecting their queen. Naturally, we thought to strike from a distance before engaging in earnest, but not a single bullet reached its mark. They were protected by some manner of mystical shroud as far as I could figure. Without a keen eye for magic, I don't see anyone getting through. Well, I am a red mage. By the time we understood the futility of the situation, we'd been spotted. Retreat was our only option. Pains me to say, but there won't be any brute force in our way through this one. Fortuno. My understanding was that once transformed, these blasphemies are completely devoid of ether. With what energies could it create such a barrier? I mean, there's like repositories of magic, there's repositories of faith, but I don't know specifically. Lorenz, that's the question, isn't it? My first thought was some heretofore unknown technique for conjuring shields. Needless to say, I'm out of my depth when it comes to matters of magic. Which is precisely why I plan to speak with the Elder Seedseer when she arrives. If anyone can help us find a way to overcome the Blasphemy's protection, it's her. Yeah, she's pretty great at that sort of stuff. In the meantime, could we trouble you to help with... the not-so-small matter of people changing into beasts? The Blasphemy's horde was large enough when we found it. Can't afford for more to join its ranks. Okay. Oh, Lorenz. Before you go, there's something else you should know about the tower. From the moment we set foot inside, I could swear there was someone or something watching us. I shrugged it off, thinking it's a figment of my imagination, but in hindsight, I'm not so sure. Wouldn't it be wild if it really just were a figment of his imagination and it's literally nothing? Lorenz. Nothing to worry ourselves about now, but best keep on your guard when we do finally return to the tower, eh? Some mastermind, some victim. The person... My initial guess is that maybe it's the person who's protecting the blasphemies, who's like putting up a magical shield or whatever around them. Cordola. Arenvald sends his regards, by the way. He asked me to tell you not to push yourself, but we all know what a waste of breath that'll be. Yeah, you all know the Warrior of Light. Lorenz? Gods, what I wouldn't do for a nice hot bowl of soup. Hot soup is fantastic in winter. Yugiri. Lord Hien will be arriving ere long. Aptly dressed for the cold, I should hope. Gosetsu would no doubt count himself fortunate to be absent if he knew we were here. Alright, so we're talking with Artois. So this is going to be a chain of quests. No immediate quick resolution here. Alright, Artois. Kakushu. It's good to have you with us, friend. Indeed, the road... Oh, Keeper of the Keeper. Indeed, the road before us is not an easy one, and a woman of your talents will prove invaluable to our efforts. Artois. We but recently returned from reconnaissance, wherein we made a few rather surprising discoveries. First and foremost, we were pleased to discover that no one residing within Camp Broken Glass or Tertium have turned. No doubt thanks to the concerted efforts of Maxima, Alphino, and Alizé, right, doing that kind of mental, emotional care. However, we have reason to believe those who did turn all hail from Locus and Minas. Fortuno, you mean Corvos, the Garleans' ancestral home? Interesting. Okay. The very same. When the ill effects of the final days began to manifest there, a number of Garlean refugees from the region sought sanctuary in Garlemald, but the capital was already in ruins when they arrived. They were offered asylum, but many refused and instead chose to fend for themselves on the outskirts of the city. So we are setting... Okay, so this is like Despair Town. Artoirel, we are of a mind to go and speak with them directly if you would care to join us. Perhaps together we can learn what of their recent circumstances has triggered such terrible changes among their people. Because it sounds like it would just be, you know, the overwhelming despair, but I don't know. And I also don't know, like, because I don't know that things have gotten much better for them. Portiono, Locus and Minas suffered greatly in the wake of the final days. It is only natural they would have sought shelter in the capital. Yeah, that's a bad surprise. Keeper. I am not Garlean by blood, but having been raised in the Imperial provinces, I would be lying if I said I'm not moved by their plight. The fact that you don't have a name means that makes me worry that you're going to die quickly, or that we won't be seeing much of you. Artoirel. Frozen Hope. Time being of the essence, I believe it prudent we split into 2 groups and cover as much ground as we may, as quickly as possible. If you and Master Fortuno would inquire after the people at Victor's spoils, the 2 of us shall see what we may learn at Liminal Station 4. When you have finished, pray meet us there. The regal Artoirel bow. Fortuno, that they should choose to reside here in the cold, I can but presume that they will not be amenable to conversation. Even so, we must not be deterred. Come on. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect that anyone who chooses to live here to forsake the aid of the of the Ilsabard contingent is not... Oh god, Victor's spoils again. Is not likely to want to talk to us. Sullen refugee. Come to hear our grievances, have you? We've more than you have time to hear them, I'm sure. We've lost not 1, but 2 homes, our loved ones, our child livelihood. There's nothing left. I served my time with the military, for what? To lose all my friends, my son. And there was naught to show for it but our claim to Locus and Minas. Or so we thought. Calamity was visited upon us for reasons we know not, and when we thought to flee, it followed on our heels to Garlemald, ruin and ash at every turn. Yeah, you have had a fairly rough time of it, my friend. Weary refugee. Talk? What is there to talk about? No home, no future, nothing. This doom spells the end for us all. Again, I do not blame you for your pessimism. It's not even pessimism, it's just like that's your lived experience at this point. Despondent refugee. Can't imagine why you or anyone else would feign interest in our troubles, but if you insist, you'll find a great many of the people here were in the military at one time or another. Some retiring with honors, some without. Sadly, I'm one of the latter, bore one too many scars in battle. Even so, my having too many scars in battle means you retire without honor? It's brutal. Even so, my contributions were enough to warrant leave to move to Locus and Minas. It was a land of warmth and bounty. The Corvosi rebellion admittedly proved troublesome for a time, but didn't take long for the Second Legion to quell their uprising. You could practically drown in the calm and quiet. And Corvos is where, is that where Graha was from? And then one day the sky came alive with flame. We were overrun by all manner of foul beasts, born of our brothers and sisters. The Second Legion barely had time to assemble their forces before they were overrun and snuffed out. We barely escaped with our lives. But we were greeted only with more rack and ruin on our arrival here, and we've not the strength to take our home back from the Corvosi a second time. And you probably shouldn't. The Corvosi, yeah, I'm not helping you, like, take their land. There's nothing left for us anywhere. Okay. Fortuno. Did you learn aught of how they came to be in such dire straits? I did. I see. I heard much the same. The military forces of Locus Aminus were defeated in the wake of the final days. Desperate to survive, they naturally fled to Garlemald seeking sanctuary. It was their hope the might of the Empire would allow them to reclaim the home they were forced to abandon, but the capital was already in ruin when they arrived. Needless to say, the lands they have long believed to be the ancestral home of the Garlean people may remain forever lost to them. So it is their ancestral home, but is it a colony? Or because they said the Corvosi Rebellion, so it makes me think that it's almost a colony rather than their... Unless it was like they left for here and some people like developed a population there in the meanwhile, and I know that they mentioned a little bit about the Corvosi, I'm forgetting it. Those unfamiliar with history would believe they have always resided in the bitter cold climes of northern Ilsabard, but that was only after the there we go. Only after the Corvosi invaded 800 years prior. So it was theirs historically, but then someone else invaded and kicked them out to the cold north because they didn't have magic, right? And so, I mean, because the Garleans didn't have magic. But that was also like... And so they have some claim to it, but 800 years is a long time. Like, the Corvosi living there now are likely just the oppressed. That's rough. With the advent of Magitech, I imagine it was all too easy for Emperor Solus to rally his people and take back what they believed to be rightfully theirs. That's a tangled. Yet history would tell us true, that the land they call Locus Aminus has been known by other names and served home to myriad peoples. Right, so it may have been theirs once, and it was home to a bunch of people at one point, but it wasn't theirs very recently at all. Yeah, this was... yeah. Indeed, one need only look back to the Allegans' rule in Third Astral Era to give the lie to Garlean claims of sovereignty. Yet even had they such ancestral ties to Locus Aminus, antecedents cannot justify their animosity to foreign peoples. Yes. Animosity poorly veiled by delusions of justice has been the... Right, it's not like they were kicked out like 20 years ago and they're on their way back. That's a long time ago. Animosity poorly veiled by delusions of justice has been the case for so many nations throughout history. Would that man had the sense and strength of will to break free from such chains of hatred. Help! Someone help! They've turned! Okay. Another monster. Quickly, Kakusha. We haven't a moment to lose. So we're seeing... So this won't be a blasphemy, but this is likely one of those non-blasphemies that turned, or at least a smaller blasphemy, if those are actually blasphemies. Sullen refugee. One of my mates seemed unwell, so I thought to come over here and look in on him. Oh, this is the weary refugee. Next thing you knew, he... Fortunately, no one appears to be injured. Did he not attack? Sullen refugee. He just walked off in the direction of the tower in a daze as if it was calling to him. So is it like anima somehow, the force of anima, the force of the Emperor was still drawing them in? He could not have gone far. If you would go after him, I will remain here and see that all are accounted for. Wait, I thought that was just a random beast on the way. That was the blasphemy? That was the turned monster? Interesting. Okay, well, not interesting. Actually, that's not really all that interesting. I had just assumed that was like something on the way to our destination. One of my favorite designs in the game still, just for a random enemy. I love those multiple faces. It's just super eerie. I think I saw it first in not Blue Lagoon. What's the Blue Ceruleum area in Thanalin somewhere? Blue Fogfen, something like that. Forshno, the beast is slain then, thank the heavens. For a blessing no others have turned, and a measure of calm has been restored, if only for the moment. Witnesses were able to offer a clue as to the source of the transformation. They claim the afflicted was listening to the radio. As if they were chanting some strange spell. Even now, it continues to play the same cryptic message. Is it playing the anthem again? No. It's something different. Empire, no more. Never again rise, ashes. Though distorted by radio static, you can hear a voice saying the Empire is no more. Never again shall it rise from the ashes. So this gives me a different thought. This makes me wonder if the person orchestrating all of this, likely the person we saw, the person that Lorenz spotted lurking in the background, is doing this not to help the cause of the Empire, but to... Because they're impacting the people who are the most militant... They're hurting the people who are most militantly pro-Empire at the moment. The kind of the remain... So maybe this is someone like a Corvosi orchestrating this to try, who like heard about the final days and is familiar with the mechanics of it and is trying to manipulate the remainders of the most militant wings of the Garleans so that they can never hurt the Corvosi again. Like, because the Empire is no more, never again shall rise from the ashes is like the fact that they're like hypnotizing people with this is not a message of pride, it's a message of give up. Portiono, but how is this possible? There are no facilities left standing that could possibly deliver a broadcast. Literally, a wizard probably did it, like someone with magic abilities, which also would imply it's not a Garlean doing it. Anima was capable of sending such a message. Last time this happened, the signal came from the Tower of Babel. Let's go with this last one, because this is more relevant since Anima's been killed. Be that as it may, Anima is no more, and the Tower of Babel has fallen into disrepair. By your hand, no less. Which begs the question, who, or perhaps what, could be behind this? I love when this is the second time in like, as many quests where they did, like, someone, or something. Artoirel. Kukushu, Master Fortuno, a moment if you would. Admiral Merlvib. Artoirel. Shortly after we finished our inquiry at Liminal Station 4, Lord Aymeric and Admiral Merlvib arrived and requested an audience. Aymeric, apologies for our late arrival. Knowing firsthand the devastation of which blasphemies are capable, I discussed the matter with the Admiral, and we were of one mind that the situation warranted our immediate presence. Yeah, the Power Rangers are assembling. I am happy with this. Merlvib, is it safe to assume a representative of the survey team has already arrived? Fortuno, indeed I have. Thank you for coming all this way on such a short notice. Recent events at the camp here have proved most enlightening. Mama. Aymeric, and is this the aforementioned radio? Empire no more, never again rise, ashes. A harsh reminder of their misfortune. Sufficient to push some wayward few over the edge, it would seem. I don't think it's just that. I mean, I think it's more like a... I think this is what the SCP would call anomalous. Merlvib. Yet there still remains the question of who is sending this message and from where. Radio, Glory Everlasting Garlemald. Never mind. For Glory Everlasting for Garlemald. Aymeric, you recognize this message? Keeper, a mantra often spoken by Lord Nerva. Anyone who lived in the provinces under his authority could scarcely forget those words. So Lord Nerva was a... What's the term for that? It was the role that Yotsuyu had was in Doma, not the Prime Minister, it's slipping my head, but that like kind of imperial governor type thing. Or Nerva. He sought to claim the throne after the assassination of Emperor Varus, did he not? That's right, he was one of the main factions there. Merlvib, after civil war broke out, he all but disappeared according to the intelligence we managed to gather. How could he have managed to breach the tower undetected? I don't think he did. I'd be surprised if Nerva himself is behind this. Maybe he is, but I would be a little bit surprised. To have done so and remain unnoticed by the creatures infesting the tower seems a nigh impossible task, unless... Do you think that could be... He could very much be the Blasphemy. I didn't think of that until just now, until the game told me, but that seems much more likely. Do you think the voice on the radio is the Blasphemy? Is Nerva? Yeah. That could well be. Porshno, I do. And as it was with Anima, these radios are somehow attuned to whatever signal it emits from the tower. What's more, I believe the true identity of the Blasphemy is Nerva. Robbed of his throne and forced to watch the empire he longed to command crumble before his very eyes. If such loss did not drive him to the same fate as Quintus, the despair he felt no doubt overcame and turned him. If it is Nerva, I would be very curious to see how they try to generate even an ounce of sympathy for him. Merlvib. Nerva's delusions of grandeur aside, the Garlean's plight sounds not unlike the Sahagin, desperate to preserve their spawning grounds. Yeah, I don't... Because the Garleans we spoke with here were, you know, militant remnants, and they wanted to... They were just like, they clearly would rather their peace came in a place that belonged to an oppressed people. But, like, it sounds like they're not wed to that. They just want to live a bit. Like, most of them are retired. Amric. Indeed, though unscrupulous by any measure, the Garleans found solidarity in their ideology, as did the people of Ishgard in their church. Adrift without home or purpose, it is all too easy for despair to take hold. I appreciate the game bringing these themes really to the surface. Just the comparisons, the commonalities here in this culmination of a quest. Merlvib, would that a remedy were as simple as offering them land as we did the Sahagin? Porshno, in all likelihood, the Garleans would refuse to settle for aught less than they believed to be their ancestral homeland of Locus Aminus, a claim the Corvosi would readily take arms to denounce. We would do well not to further fan the flames of animosity twixt them. Amric, then perhaps at the very least we can offer them peace of mind, and a means to regain some semblance of stability in their lives. To offer them true comfort and stability, Garlemald must be rebuilt, or ... I think it does have to be rebuilt. I mean, I think that you don't want to leave it a shattered husk. I mean, but as long as we mean, like, the city and, like, a kind of almost a literal nation building. Amric, by no means an easy solution, but perhaps the only one worthy of pursuit. Of course, this new Garlemald must remain a sovereign nation, free from the oversight of others. Yeah. But it's not like... God, I don't know my post-war history. And I know that there's a lot of bad... Is there a single outcome? Is there, like, a common, in the last, say, 100 years... a post-war rebuilding that pretty quickly was like, where the defeated nation was pretty quickly rebuilt into something that's generally seen by most parties as, like, successful? Because I don't know, like, I don't know enough about, like, because I know that eventually, like, you know, Germany became a thriving, you know, eventually became, you know, a thriving republic and all, and Japan is in pretty good shape at the moment. But I don't know what, like, the 20 years or 25 or 30 years after the war were like in even in West Germany or in Japan, or I'm sure there's just the first thing that jumps out at me. And, like, it's not, and in all those cases, like, usually there was some oversight from the conqueror, from the victorious parties. For a time, anyway. Merlvib, aye, if they would see no meaning in it otherwise. Right, you can have some oversight without it becoming like a Vichy government. If I'm not mistaken, Alphino and Alizé have already made this strides in helping people here regain some normalcy in day-to-day living. A most important step, but it will mean little without proper leadership. Fortuno, rather than a single individual, perhaps a governing body of sorts would prove more effective. So, and here you're like setting up the government for the new Garlemald without input from its people, and so that's, it's tricky because you want to, I don't know the best way to handle this. I really don't. Artoirel, there are a number of former Senate members among the refugees at Camp Broken Glass, as I recall. With their help creating the frame... Okay, yeah. Never mind. I jumped the gun there. Apologies. With their help creating the framework for new governance is not an impossibility. Let us call the people together and see what they make of our proposal. Are they really putting the rebuilding of Garlemald in this quest? I guess they... A lot of the kind of little hub side quests in this game seem to be more smaller ones, but so far the Omega side, quote-unquote side quest, there's a lot of, look at that, put him on the guy on the right. The Omega, like a lot of these side quests are major deals so far. Merlvib, the final days have taken much from you all. I can but imagine the pain you feel in the face of such immeasurable loss. And though the final days have been averted, its effects yet linger, and a blasphemy has been born of your suffering. Decisive action must be taken before further harm is wrought upon you. It does hit me that oftentimes refugees are powerless, utterly powerless at the whims of those around them. Here, at the whims of the people who are, in power. But this is a case where the mechanics of the blasphemies in this world give the refugees, like, cards in their hand. They give them a pretty potent weapon that provide an incentive, like a very direct, selfish incentive for the people in power to make their lives better, to make their lives better. Because if they don't, you'll have these monsters that you're going to have to deal with. And so you might as well, like, even if you weren't, a good leader in the way that these people are, you'd still have an incentive to help better their lives and to help alleviate their despair. I wonder if the world would somehow be better with blasphemies. Aymeric, to overcome such adversity is too great a task for any one person, but as a people united, there may yet be hope for the morrow. While it is not our place to decide how you will move forward, we would offer a small measure of guidance. We were told a number of former members of your Senate yet remain among you. Would you be amenable to an interim government led by these individuals until such time as Garlemald can be rebuilt? Reserved refugee. Rebuild Garlemald? Is such a thing truly possible? Sullen refugee. Even if we do cobble together some governing council, they won't be making anything of that pile of ash we dare call Garlemald. Yeah, so many of the, again, they set up the age of these people as like a lot of retired military, so that's, it certainly sets the tone. There's no going back to Locus of Minas either. Rack and ruin, those are our only options. Are you going to turn in for... I worry that Sullen Refugee is going to be the next to turn. Fortuno, I realize to rebuild Garlemald is a seemingly impossible task, but you needn't undertake it alone. My children are working with members of the First Legion as we speak to begin an organized relief effort. And there are others from the provinces no doubt willing to lend their expertise. You need but ask, not as would-be conquerors, but as brothers and sisters of this star, and others will heed your call. That's a lot to ask. If you should still see no merit in the rebuilding of Garlemald, then I would instead offer you residency in Charlian. I promise you will be welcomed with open arms. God, Fortuno has had quite an arc. It's funny, it's less of an arc and more of a reveal of what his priorities have been all along and what was driving him. I don't know how much he's changed. I don't think he's actually changed all that much compared to someone like Alphino. But the reveal of who he actually is and what his goals are is really something. Nice animation on the kind of the grumpy mouth. That Charlian. So now you'd expect us to go and lick boots in some country we've never even heard of. Guess how it feels to be a citizen of a colony of Garlemald. Fortuno, my apologies if I appeared overly forward in my proposition. Considering our strict policies on non-intervention until but recently, it's not surprising you are unfamiliar with my homeland. It's an island nation to the north, home to myriad peoples, which is why I would believe it would not prove difficult to accommodate you and yours. To be clear, you would not be migrating to Charlian to live in servitude. You have my word that each and every one of you would be guaranteed citizenship upon entry. I love it, but I feel like, boy, this would cause some real interesting internal discussions within Charlian. Sullen refugee, and why exactly would you go to such lengths for us, for the conquerors you barely know? Fortuno, Charlian was long aware of the coming doom that would be the final days, and so... Is it guilt, then? That they didn't act sooner, or... I don't know. Guilt of the coming doom that would be the final days, and so we were preparing to evacuate the star, taking as many people and resources as our stores would allow. Initially, it was our intent to save the peoples of Garlemald as well, but we had not forgotten your transgressions invading Alamigo, your rejection of our entreaties for peace. After a great deal of deliberation, it was decided we would forego an invitation to Garlemald, a determination made with great trepidation. This is... I tremendously admire Fortuno's honesty here, because this has the potential to make it a lot tougher in the short term to win their confidence, because he's basically saying, we were about to leave you all behind as the world drowned and burned. But we're changing our minds now, or we're doing something a little different now. But it's the honesty, I think, is going to win out, and is going to be far better policy in the long run. But in the short term, this has the potential to really sully their opinion of Garlemald, of Charlian before it's forming. Fortuno, we had convinced ourselves it was ultimately for the greater good, though we can think of at least one individual who would continue to protest. To ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. I remember that line, I don't remember where it's from. Is it... The way he's talking about it, it must be from Louis Soir, right? Or is it Cuckoo? No, who is it from? Gosh, I don't remember. No. Maybe Fortuno? Maybe Louis Soir? Gosh, apologies. I take that back. I'm going to try to apologize less. I just forgot it. Sage Counsel I brazenly cast aside when confronted with the final days in earnest. But Kukushu here and her companions refused to forsake those we were otherwise unwilling to save. With great risk to themselves, they achieved the impossible and opened my eyes to the error of the Forum's decision. That's right, you guys both have Latin roots. I think you'd fit well in Charlian. Both use Latin a lot. Reserved refugee. If all other roads lead to ruin regardless, perhaps we should at least consider it. Okay. Okay. Nice job, Fortuno. Amric. Then it would be my pleasure to invite you all to Camp Broken Glass, where you shall have warm food and beds both. Good. This is turning out concerningly better than I expected, which means I'm waiting for some other shoe to drop. But this is a side quest. This isn't necessarily going to lead to some... This isn't like a... If this were happening in a main story quest, we'd about to all be hit by a meteor or something, but not necessarily. Amric. Admiral Merlevib and I will speak with Maxima and the others and consider how to best assist the Garleans moving forward. Should we broach the subject of the blasphemy, however, we will not hesitate to call upon you. Oh, guys, are we going to see who's watching us? Some Imperial. Some Garlean. Not a Blasphemy either. Like, that's just a straight up a person. It's the next day for me, and we're going to continue on. Fortuno. Misguided Few. Though visibly relieved the Garleans are safe, the hardness in Fortuno's eyes suggests your work is far from over. With the Garleans' hearts at ease, the likelihood of others turning has greatly diminished. That said, it is no cause for us to grow complacent. We must needs find a way to overcome the Blasphemy's protective warding. If I understand correctly, a Blasphemy's behavior is oftentimes influenced by the memories and emotions of their originator, in which case it would be prudent to learn more of the man who birthed this monstrosity. So they're still going on the belief that it's Nerva. How fortuitous, then, that is, which I mean, boy, it might, God, I don't know, it might be Nerva, but I don't think Nerva's the mastermind. How fortuitous, then, that a number of soldiers from the 3rd Legion are in our custody. For a mercy, their tempering was not so severe as to be beyond our ability to heal them. They're presently being treated at Camp Broken Glass. Perhaps the camp's intelligence officer can tell us who among them knows aught of Nerva's whereabouts. Okay. I see. Perhaps it'd be best if you speak with Virgilia, legatus of the 3rd Legion. She's still on the mend, but the chirurgeons aren't like to oppose a brief conversation. If you'd wait here a moment. Absolutely. Not the happiest of campers right here. Virgilia, Eorzea's champion, I presume, and one of her cohorts. What business have you with me? I'll be honest, I dig the hell out of Virgilia's design. Yes. Fortuno, Ilsabard is faced with an imminent crisis, and we believe that knowledge you bear may be key in stopping it. Mama. I do. This is so they use this mechanic, this technique a lot, and I really like that they do it. Just to kind of fade away as they talk. Just must save so much time from having to write summary dialogue. Fortuno, thus do we believe the blasphemy to be Nerva. His whereabouts in the wake of Garlemald's fall, or lack thereof, give credence to our theory. Feels like she's about to shut it down. Maybe not. Virgilia, Lord Nerva? From what we've pieced together thus far, you were one of the last to see him alive. Please, will you not share with us what you know? Very well. Though I suspect what meager knowledge I possess shall avail you naught. I last spoke with Lord Nerva shortly after the warring with the 1st Legion began. This is just such a genius piece of music. Everything about it. The static, the little accordion sound that makes it sound like a, I don't know, like old French wartime thing. Cloistered within the lower levels of the Sinoculum Imperialis, he spent the better part of the day listening attentively to the radio. He seemed hopeful, or perhaps desperate, for news that the tide might turn in our favor. The next day I left for the front line. It was there I heard a terrible noise, which I assume came from the Tower of Babel. Then darkness took me, and I remember naught after that. Yeah, that was the old mind control wave. I was told the radios protected those close to them from the effects of the tower, in which case Lord Nerva would have remained unaffected. But he has ever been devoted to Garlemald. For glory everlasting, he would say. Well, it looks like it is him. To watch the empire he loved so dearly crumble, I can think of no one who would be more stricken by the sight. Fortunately, it would seem we were right to assume what became of Nerva. And it does not surprise me the beast would choose to make its nest within the Tower of Babel. Yeah, it stands atop the remains of the Imperial Palace and the throne he revered so highly. This is interesting, because Virgilia makes it sound like he revered the throne like the way that Gaius revered the throne, but I got the impression before that he was more like power-hungry rather than reverent of the Garlean ideals. But the Empire's no more, and Lord Nerva apparently is no longer the man he once was. He deserves to be laid to rest, together with his dreams of glory. We will fell the beast, you have my word. Just something about her, the features on her are so sharp and angular, I really dig it. Hello, gang. Lorenz. Apologies for the interruption. Condescena has arrived, and we're ready to depart. Fordola, my beloved. Condescena, 'tis good to see you, Kakushu, Master Fortuno. I have spoken with Lorenz of the ward protecting the Blasphemy, and I'm quite confident some manner of ether-based magic bars our path. But how? I mean, again, because I think it's just that other person must be a helper. Fortuno, if I may be so bold, Elder Seedseer, we reached the same conclusion initially, but that simply is not possible. These creatures born of the final days are devoid of ether. As such, they would be unable to produce such a barrier in a manner to which we are accustomed. You believe it supposed possible they manipulated dynamists to achieve a similar effect? She thinks yes. I too thought to dismiss the notion of a barrier fueled by ether. That is until okay, good. Until I stepped foot here in Garlemald. Even now I can sense streams of ether flowing toward the tower. What a set piece this is. Just, oh my goodness. I'm a fan of it. Its purpose was, after all, to harvest the reserves of energy sufficient to reach the moon. Even if one was incapable of manipulating ether directly, it stands to reason control of the tower would alleviate such a need. Oh, I never thought of that, but yes. It is merely conjecture, of course. I cannot say for certain until I've examined the currents with my own eyes. Might I ask you to accompany us? Virgilia. Oh, yes, I'm glad Virgilia is joining. I would join you as well, if I may. My injuries would keep me from being of use in battle, but my knowledge of the land should serve just as well as my blade. Kane-sena. I would not be opposed to your company, but it is not my decision to make. It's Kakushu's. Oh, no, it's the intelligence officers. She may go so long as she remains under watch by you and the others. Yeah, because she's still in timeout. Or, you know, she's like a sort of a prisoner of war, but sort of not. But yeah, she's not free to do as she pleases. Very good. Might I suggest we begin with Regio Urbanissima? I sense the greatest confluence of ether in that vicinity. And again, the watchful eye of... And I have to imagine the fact that this person is right in the camp, that maybe it's someone betraying us, like, or someone we know about. Because, again, they're right in the heart of matters there. So maybe it is someone that, like, wouldn't be looked at askance for walking around the camp here. Cordola. I heard word that Aldine should be arriving before long. I can already picture him knocking his knees, muttering under his breath about the cold. Raubon? I don't know if you're kidding or not. Raubon would... I mean, I guess Raubon's comes from desert climes, but I get the sense Raubon would never do that. Yuguri. I will never understand how anyone could grow accustomed to such cold climes. Yeah, well, Minnesota's pretty great. Lorenz. I'm sure it's just my imagination, but I can't help but feel we're being watched. It is not your imagination. Virgilia. Part of me does not wish to believe this blasphemy is Lord Nerva, that I failed to protect him, and yet... Yeah, so that tells me a little bit more about your relationship with him. that, like, you were like his right-hand soldier. It would seem fortunate. It would seem that I underestimated the resourcefulness of our adversary. How? Kane-sena, as I thought. The ether stream here flows toward the tower, as do all others in this region, no doubt. I'm sorry I keep harping on this. It's just, the times Final Fantasy XIV does other games worst is like the Deltascape, for instance. A good raid in itself, but it basically ignored any sense of really trying to fit those the older games within the context of Final Fantasy XIV. It was just like, let's just make a virtual reality, you know, of all of these old bosses you remembered if you played those games. But this and Pandemonium 2, this is like a version of the Tower of Babel that gets the soul of the Tower of Babel without feeling the need to just kind of slap it up on the screen. I'm so happy with what they did with, like, it really honors Final Fantasy IV, which, again, was my first... It wasn't my very first Final Fantasy game. I played Final Fantasy I. I remember I got the cartridge at a garage sale for a Nintendo when I was a kid. And I couldn't beat it because I didn't know how to equip items. So I didn't know about experience. I just kind of walked up to Garland running from every fight, and I had no items equipped, and I just died, and I just got frustrated and left. But Final Fantasy IV was my first real game that I played and watched as a kid, and I'm so happy they're honoring it, like, right here. Sorry. This convergence first began when the Telophoi erected spires in all the corners of Eorzea to fuel the Tower of Babel. But once destroyed, this divergence of ether should have ceased. So someone's keeping it going intentionally. Maybe. That's my guess, at least. Lorenz. All right, whoever you are, if you have business with us, quit your skulking about in the shadows and speak your piece. Was you there in the tower, wasn't it? This is someone who escaped even Yugiri's attention. Lorenz has got game. Oh my god. Never mind. Never mind. I was convinced that this person was the, was like, you know, I don't know, I thought something tragic, like some acolyte of Nerva or some enemy of Nerva, something like that, who was behind this all. No, this is friggin' Nero. We haven't seen him yet, have we? We knew he was around here. We've heard of him in side quests popping up and helping out, but, like, we haven't actually seen him. Nero, my, you're sharper than you look. God. Yugiri. I recognize you, Nero, yes? Nero, yes? Why are you following us? Yes, Sid's not here. How could you leave him alone, you monster? Who said I'm following you? Being a native of Garlemald, does it not stand to reason I might be inclined to come and see what has become of my home? Yugiri, I know not what you're scheming, but we've no time to entertain your games. Perhaps Master Garland would make better company for you. Yugiri? Same page. Spare me, I am a man of great ambition and greater intellect, far beyond the scope of anything Garland could hope to achieve. He still keeps his head in the clouds, while I would set my sights to the stars beyond. Are you trying to get to the moon? I don't want you on the moon. I feel like you'd cause too much mischief. I don't want you'd be a bad influence on the Loporrits. Lorenz, which is why you snuck into the tower, but like us, you couldn't get past the Blasphemy to reach the transporter. Nero. Yes, well, I was very much hoping you would dispense with that little obstacle. And having caught wind of your plans, curiosity compelled me to see if you were truly up to the task. Were you watching in the tower? But oh no, you were in the tower not because of curiosity for our plans. You were there trying to get to the transporter at the time when Lorenz first felt your eyes. Okay. Kane-sena. You have reason to believe we are not. Or perhaps does the great genius Nero mean to dispense with the blasphemy himself? Far be it from me to steal your glory having come all this way, but as I am feeling generous, I will tell you what I learned during my time in the Tower of Babel. He has that smirk. I was able to access its systems, you see, and discovered one of those dreadful spires. It still appears to be active. Okay. Impossible, they all vanished when Anima was destroyed. Yes, and I've heard of your escapades reclaiming the remains of the Emperor, but obviously you failed to reclaim his entire body. As it stands, a piece remains powering a tower at Fabrica. Just like a lone body part. I guess Bahamut was like just body parts for a while. Boy, the poor Virgilia, because that, like, the disrespect to the Emperor's body is just... The Emperor has had a rough go this expansion, hasn't he? Virgilia. Ah, yes, the manufacturing district, just north of the erstwhile Imperial Palace. Nero. A rather impressive feat, considering how these lands are so utterly devoid of ether. Barely enough to sustain life, let alone the spire. Kane. But if one were to use Varus's remains to forcibly create a confluence of sorts? Precisely. And from what I gleaned of the tower's systems, his heart serves as its core. Is it just like a pulsing, gross heart? Maybe. Coursing not with blood, but your precious ether. And now Nerva has amassed a surfeit to shore up his defenses. It just took me... I was thinking, was he saying, like... Because as if shoring up his defenses sounded like a military tactician. No, but he's just doing this on bestial instinct, I think, at this point. How fortuitous he should find so perfect an impetus for his design, stolen from better minds than his own. How very like him. Little shade, and Virgilia does not like that. Oh, did I say that aloud? You'll forgive me if I fail to show concern for your ire. Nero's sass is legendary. If what you say is true, these lands could never hope to recover from such a paucity of life energies. We must hurry and find It would be almost... I don't know what the term is. It's not ironic, but it would be poetic, maybe. If Varus's heart could be, like, burst open, but not in a gross way, and, like, have its energy distributed to, like, seed the ether within it, like, seed the next generation of whatever Garlemald becomes. Yeah, to both spare the land this wanton harvesting and deny the blasphemy the source of its protection. Yugiri, are we to presume you have any intention of aiding us? As I've said, I have no intention of stealing your glory, though I fear victory may soon slip through your fingers if you do not act quickly. Look at this gang. Look at them. I like them. Nero told Scaeva. The Tower of Babel was designed specifically for Anima to serve as its core. Nerva forcing himself upon the system has caused it to grow increasingly unstable. If my calculations are correct, and they always are, it will not be long before his presence triggers a system meltdown. The resulting explosion will destroy whatever tenuous streams of ether breathe life into the lands of Garlemald. More importantly, we'll lose our only means of reaching the moon. The heavens forever denied my genius. Wouldn't that be a shame? Kane. Also very unfortunate. Also very unfortunate. Yeah, I'm on page with everyone. In any event, 'twould seem time is of the essence. That's all well and good, Fordola. That's all well and good, but even if we know which district to search, finding the heart will be like looking for a needle in a bloody haystack, will it? I assume it's going to have, like, glowing power stuff around it. Actually, Virgilia, I may know where we can start. It's all rather hazy, but I still have vague recollections of my time serving Anima when I was enthralled. Really? We were commanded to erect some manner of facility tucked away in a corner of Fabrica. I remember not what it was for, but it's as good a place as any to begin our search. Nero certainly sounds promising, but surely this facility will be heavily guarded. By what? I guess by little blasphemies. Lorenz. Then maybe it'd be the best to divide our forces. If it's just the four of us, shouldn't be prove too difficult to sneak inside and find the heart. Meanwhile, our main force can stand ready to storm the Tower of Babel when the barrier gives out. Leave it to us. Be safe. Leave it to us. Leave it to us. It's the four of us. It was Fortuno. I didn't see who else was there, but yeah. This is Levior. You've got Fortuno. What? Very well, we shall return at once. Bad news. A number of Garleans have left camp for the Tower of Babel. The pull is getting stronger, I guess. No. It's worse. They have somehow misunderstood the threat of the tower and convinced themselves Nerva has taken refuge there, still clinging to their ill-placed patriotism, no doubt. They could not have gone far. If we act quickly, perhaps they can be found before they come to harm. Doesn't sound likely. Nero, a wise man should not waste his time on a few wayward refugees. I thought you Charlian scholars knew better. I think this is... Maybe in the past he would have done differently, but maybe he has had his own arc in a way. Fortuno, to ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, sir. Look at you. Ponytailed Louisois. Fortuno, if it's all the same to you, Kukushu, I would join you. Kane, I will return to camp and begin preparations for our assault on the tower. Is this going to be a dungeon? No, it's not going to be a dungeon. It's got to be an instance. Unless it's an optional dungeon, but I don't think so. Nero. Suppose I should go as well. Also, the four of us could be a trust. So what would that be? Nero would be DPS. Fortuno could heal. No, Akane is going to heal. Is Fortuno going to tank? I don't know. Though I am unarmed, I promise not to be a burden. That said, it would behoove us to avoid any undue confrontations if possible. Help! Someone, please! Is it one of the Garleans? Probably. Did you hear that? It came from over there. Yeah, we got one of those, a winged thing. Well, one winged thing and an eyeball. Terminus Beholder and Terminus Twitcher. Yeah, the refugees are holding out. Respondent refugee. You're the ones who came to speak with us before. These are younger ones. We heard Lord Nova had returned and was assembling his forces in the tower, but... It's over, my friends. No, not Lord Nerva too. Then there really is nothing left for us. It speaks to the depth of this kind of the feeling that some of these people had for Garlemald, that they're even now clinging to this idea that they'll take everything back. I do not deny your situation is dire, but you are not without a path forward. I believe you have the passion and conviction needed to rebuild Garlemald, if you so choose. Or failing that, you could begin life anew in Charlian. Rebuild Garlemald? No, there's no point in entertaining so lofty a dream. And we would sooner die than suffer life under the rule of another. I mean, those are... I don't know what the next step, what the other option is. You would sooner seek death than I guess death is the option, they're saying. You'd sooner seek death than sanctuary. Your resolve is admirable, but sorely misplaced. If you would not see Garlemald rise from the snow and ashes here in Ilsabard, might you consider venturing onto a new frontier? Yeah! A new frontier? And where exactly is this land ripe for exploration? I mean, the friggin' moon, right? Are you thinking? Yeah, they're on the moon. Yes. Again, this is okay. This is the conclusion I was hoping he's come to. I didn't think it was going to Oh, he's still on the idea of a repository of man's knowledge. I guess he's still Charlian, but like it's built as a long-term home. That's what it was designed for. Whether it travels to the stars or stays put, it's still a long-term home. It is our goal to create a repository of man's knowledge there, free from the jurisdiction of any nation. Won't they still see that as... Won't they still see that as being under the rule of another? Like, because even if he says it's, you know, free from the nation, free from any nation, but he's still like, it's a Charlian who's making it, right? As I understand, the magitech and technological advancement of Garlemald were without peer. Your expertise would be indispensable in the endeavor, should you be willing, of course. You really expect us to go and live on the bloody moon? Is such a thing even possible? You haven't met the rabbits. Nero, have you a better alternative? Lest you forget, Garlemald did not rise to grandeur from complacency. That's right, Garlemald was a place that arose in... as a result of exile in a new land. Garlemald did not rise to grandeur from complacency in the present or rumination in the past. We live for the future. It's in our blood. Life is not without its hardships, of course, but even I have met with occasional stumbling block. But even should I stumble, my eyes are forever fixed skyward, seeking ever greater heights, blocked by sunglasses, even at night. The Empire may be lost, but I still possess a great deal of knowledge gained from it, and a desire to seek more. The very notion of exploring the moon is an unprecedented prospect. I did it. And that you would balk at the proposition boggles the mind. Nero is really kicking butt in this. Like, this is exactly the push you need. It's a push from a very Garlean perspective from a Garlean. Consider this. You have heard the beasts of the final days were born of those hapless souls that had given up on everything, yes? If that's indeed the case, can you tell me why you still stand before me? Nero! Because deep down you believe your life is yet worth living. Deep down you long to reach for the unreachable. Or perhaps you don't. If you should choose to lay down and die here in the snow, none of my concern. You got Garla wrecked. Reach for the unreachable. That sounds like something I would have said back at the academy. Alright, we'll go. Suppose it's better than dying here in the snow, as you so grimly put it. Yeah, everyone's on board. I like that girl's snow hat. Then first we must dispense with the blasphemy that commands the tower. I love the idea that the Garlean, and that portrayal specifically of what's going to inspire the Garleans to move forward in a way that's not tyrannical. Doesn't have to be tyrannical, at least it could certainly go back to that, but in a way that's not necessarily, that's not at its heart about conquest of other people, but that still has that Garlean like flavor, that ambition and that hardiness and sense of, you know, exploration. And it's hard to believe that Lord Nerva of all people could be turned into one of those monsters. Please, you must stop him. Put his soul to rest. Thank you, and sorry for causing all this trouble. Fortuno, thank you for the rousing call to action, but I thought you had no interest in meddling in our affairs. That's not our affairs. He was meddling in his affairs. That was a Garlean affair we just witnessed. Lest you misunderstand, I abhor the idea of my countrymen blindly following nobles they know next to nothing about. Besides, it would be a most piteous sight for not a single Garlean to be among those venturing to the moon. Who else am I to prevail upon to learn of new findings up there? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Up, 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 up. I told myself I would not get overly involved, yet here I am. Here you are. Forlorn Glory. Fortuno is eager to regroup and make ready for battle. I don't know if the cat's coming through, but he is telling me about his day or something. He has been fed very recently, by the way. From what Nero has told us, time is now a luxury we can ill afford. Let us return to Camp Broken Glass, if only for the moment. The others are no doubt finishing their preparations for the battle. I should hope the others' absence means all proceeds apace. Hi, Kane. Good, you're here. With the recent arrival of reinforcements, our preparations are all but complete. Look at this cast of all-stars. Apologies for Raubon. Apologies for our lateness. It seems we are at least in time to help deliver the crushing blow. Again, hi, if the fates are kind, this will be the last we see of these damnable blasphemies. I almost forgot that that's what this quest was. That this quest is the... Not that it's a blasphemy quest, but that it's the wrap-up of kind of the conclusion to what all these nations had to deal with in terms of blasphemies. Fortuno, Commander Aldine, Lord Hien, thank you both for coming. Kane, yes, of course, understood. They're ready? Lorenz and the others should have reclaimed Varys' heart. The barrier protecting the blasphemy should soon dissipate. Oh, I thought we were going to do that. Interesting. And the time has come. I mean, I don't think it was going to be anything special, but they set it up like it was going to be a quest, and interesting that they chose to not do that. I don't mind it. The time has come to at last storm the Tower of Babel. And there's an ongoing theme that I don't have to be doing all the things, that like other people are continuing to fight and continuing to help. Admiral Merle Vibben, Lord Aimeric await our arrival at its base. Then we should be about it, eh? I suppose this is as good an opportunity as any to keep my hammer from rusting over. Oh, you're going to break out your, like, Iron Man hammer? Iron Man didn't have a hammer, but he looked like Iron Man when he first showed me the hammer. I will accompany you as well. As the Forum's representative and a member of the survey team, I feel my responsibility to see this through to the end. Are you sure you wouldn't rather wait here? I didn't take you for the fighting team. Leia, I didn't take you for the fighting type. I guess he used to be a sage. Despite appearances, I am no stranger to the battlefield. Indeed, I have seen my fair share, traveling the world in service to the Forum. I mean, we know that Alphino had his little Gundam things, whose name I can never remember. Though I may not be the equal of Alphino or Alizé, we shall not find ourselves wanting, I can promise you that much. And now we have a full part. Maybe this is going to be like one of those pseudo-trial things? Like a solo player trial, like the Varys trial. When you have finished all your preparations, we shall reconvene at the Enceladium. Yep, he's in full Iron Man regalia. Our objective is simple. Locate and eliminate the blasphemy Nerva. Though the barrier is guarding him is no more, a number of beasts will surely block the way at the auxiliary sector. Quite a storm we got going. Off to a smashing start, I see. It would seem the tower will reach its limits sooner than I anticipate. Ah, yep, so it's not intentional, it's just it about to go into meltdown. We're to save the transporter, we must hurry and find Nerva now. Nod, nod, yep, that's a lot of nods. Or nodders, as Preach calls them. Here we go. It should go on with Iron Nero. Without saying, but say on your guard, there was quite the menagerie of horrors when I was last here. They even call him friggin' Iron Nero. All right, what do we got here? Terminus, Witcher, and Beholder. Merlin and I shall hold them off. Press on, my friends. Ah, so this is going to be one of those.
The path has been revealed. The winds favor us.
I shall hold the line here. When you see an opening, take it and do not look back. All right, so Aymeric is standing behind this part at this juncture. I don't think it's a bad storytelling device. I'm just looking at it as I go. Forward, out of our way. So we got Horse, we got First Beast knockoff. Terminus Trampler. Nerva never did make things easy. Let's get this over with. Oh, the horses. I see. Nope. Oh. I thought that body was one of our allies. Okay, so I see a body, a person, a shrink. So there's person, shrink, frog, and person. So the person is presumably to oh no, it's to transform. There are two things. To shrink and to turn into a frog. So the question is, do we want to hop over something or shrink below it? So that's what those are going to be about. I can't remember where we saw that before, but we saw that in one prior dungeon at least. They just keep coming, don't they? Are these bombs? We're going to have to jump over whatever the bombs do. Self-destruct. Oh, no, these are icy. We actually have to take care of these. Oh, I will see the rabble. You focus on the large one there. Gotcha. Understood. We didn't even have to use the frog converter. Was that just from a prior boss fight, maybe? Maybe that was from the last boss fight that was in this room. Is that the last of them? No, it's not. Of course not. Yeah, and we can't afford for them to impede our advance any further. Commander Aldine, let us hold them there. Hold them here. Master Fortuno, take the others and go quickly. Understood. Look at Master Fortuno being part of a team. Alright, so now it's just Fortuno, Nero, and Cold Run. Kakushu. Blasphemy, Nerva, Ye, Galvus. Taking the form of the final days beast, the Chthonian something. Leave, leave now. Garlemald is mine. Mine! Yeah, so even now, Nerva has a very selfish view of the Empire. He's say what Virgilia can say what she wants. I get the sense that this guy was power hungry. Okay, here we go. This ends here, Nerva, for Garlemald, her people, and all who call this star home. Blasphemy or no one, let's suffer anyone who gets in my way. Oh, I'm tanking this, I guess? For glory everlasting, for Garlemald. And, like, Nerva might have thought that he meant, like, had those beliefs, but he's also power hungry. He's not... I don't know. I don't think he's some kind of selfless for Garlemald type. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. For glory. Okay, so we're getting here. Okay, what now? Bravest ego. Let me... Oh. Hold on, Kakushu. Are you gonna shield me and heal me? Hurry, Levior. Oh, thank you. You life gripped me. I don't remember what the 14 term for life grip is. Oh, rescue, rescue. We must take the offensive. A bizarre model. I like it, but it's boy is it bizarre. Egoeris, rise, my faithful. So how are we gonna survive this? Ah, just a much narrower area. Look at that head. That's just creepy, that like screaming, howling head. Review, are these going to explode? We just have to get in the middle? Yeah. Okay. And get out of the middle. There we go. To me, my legion. Look at that portrait they gave Nerva. That is awesome. All right, we got Ad Central here. Bring them here and leave the rest to me. Who said that? Oh, Iron Nero. This will sting. Yeah, you're going to hammer him, aren't you? Nice job. You can thank me later. Where are we going to go, though? Behind me, quickly. I shall take the brunt of it. Orshino, laying on his tank skills. Is that an actual ability, or is that unique to, like, a player-usable ability, or is that unique to Forshino? We must drive it back. Breaking points. All right, I'm trying. Gods be good. I'm trying. I'm trying to help you out, my friend. This is an assault on the senses. Did we get it? Come too far to give up now. Yeah, I don't think we destroyed the barrier or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what we were just attacking there. I don't know what the breaking point was. Like why we were. It seemed like we would be bolstering it, not attacking it. No, Garlemald is mine. Mine. Yeah. Yeah, this patriot my butt. Well, rip Nerva. I'm not sad he's dead, but I'm glad he's dead. I'm sad for Virgilia more than I am for Nerva himself. Nerva sounded like a little big old turd. Just morphed back. Glory everlasting indeed. Again, is it over? Has the danger passed? Nero, by a hair's breadth, perhaps, but yes, I'd say we've managed to avoid a fiery ruin. Our path to the moon is open once more. And Nero's going to frolic through that thing. The duty of Charlian has ever been to chart the course of history, not to change it. Thus did we fervently hold to our policies of neutrality and non-intervention. In truth, it was all in service to our plans of exodus, to abandon this star to its ruinous fate. Harsh though it may sound, I still believe it was ultimately for the greater good. That's why I don't consider him to have as much of an arc as a realization or as, like, a revelation. Because I don't think he regrets exactly what he's done. Nor necessarily should he. I get where he was coming from. Except with regards to his kids. I get where he's coming from. I don't like it, but I understand why, I understand his perspective, even if I think it was a bad one. Thanks to you and your comrades, however, it was a fate that did not come to pass. Charlian will find a new way forward, not merely for the preservation of knowledge, but for the betterment of this star and all who call it home. I believe I speak for all the Forum when I say it would be an honor and a privilege to work towards such a goal alongside the allied nations. And Garlemald, if they end up that way. Aye, an age of true and everlasting peace is finally within our grasp, and we will seize it together. Yeah, these characters all wish this were the final expansion of 14, but alas, there's more shenanigans to come, no doubt. Portion note: 'Tis a relief to know we've no longer a need for battle. Despite my experience, I must confess I am ill-suited to it. The allied nation leaders, meanwhile, demonstrated aptitude for combat far and above what I might expect from... Shouldn't it be far and above beyond what I might expect from diplomatic figures? Does it work as is? I don't know. And you, my friend, I see now why you are so well regarded as Eorzea's champion. I mean, I guess, how? What? I see now why you're so well regarded as Eorzea's champion. The others have already begun the arduous journey home, but before you go, I would offer a word of thanks to the both of you. Not for your timely assistance, our plans would be forfeit, and the lands of Ilsabard forever defiled by the blasphemy. Please have no need for your platitudes. I labor only to further my own ends, nothing more. Nero told Scaeva could remind me a little bit of Greed from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where, yeah, they're all his own ends, he's very clear about that, but his own ends, kind of like, once he decides that you're one of his ends, I think he will go pretty far out of his way to help you. Despondent refugee, we heard the news. Thank you for everything. With Lord Nerva laid to rest, we've the peace of mind to move on without regret. That's right. Meet your new master. Living Way. There you are. Now that... What's this I've heard about you cleaning out the Tower of Babel? Are we finally ready to return to the moon? Ah, what fortuitous timing. Allow me to introduce you to Living Way of the Loprets, Moon Dweller and Overseer of the survey team. Living Way, these good people will be the moon's first residents. I trust you and the other Loprets will take good care of them. Pleased to meet you? Residents, oh no! I mean, oh yes, splendid! After many, many long years of planning and preparation, the moon is absolutely, most definitely ready to accommodate your stay. Yeah, the rubber hits the road after like tens of thousands of practice runs. Glad to hear it, and apologies for the delay. I must confer with Lorenz to see to our final preparations, but your residents-to-be and the survey team shall be along ere long. Might I trouble you to relay word of our success to Shirabat and Razatan? I should think the tidings all the more heartening in coming from you. Until next time we meet. Until next time. Wait, you're not leaving for the moon without me! Yeah, you better hustle up. It's weird that this glowing black and red citadel of pain, that I can like smile when looking at it, because it means good things right now. We're back here. Shirabat. Oh, it's true then. The Blasphemy in Garlemald has been struck down. They were right to call on you, it seems. Yes, they were. And with no other outstanding reports of Blasphemy sightings, I dare say you've slain the last of them. Perhaps now we can finally put the final days behind us, strange though that may sound. On behalf of my fellow delegates and the Radiant Host, I extend to you our humblest thanks. I hope when next I call on you, it will be under more fortuitous circumstances. And I think that might be it. I think we've done it. Achievement unlocked the sum of our parts. I guess I'll keep it for now, but I don't know if I'll stick with it. It sounds a little bit like the title you give to like a really good fart. Okay, there I am. Cold Run, Blessed Relief. Or like when you... Something really small, like, I don't know, when you've been holding in your pee for a while and then you get to go. So that's going to be it for me on that poetic note. Yeah, next time, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm probably not going to do the Manderville thing for a little bit. I want to keep moving on. I'm probably going to come back to that later on. I don't know when exactly, but at some point I'm going to come back to the Sleeping Gentleman. I know that the relic stuff is going to be Manderville-y, and so I'll probably do that when that comes out, or after I finish the whatever, after I catch up to the MSQ stuff. Yeah, I'll start clearing out some of these. I don't know what a place to train will unlock, but maybe that's the next thing I'll do. So thanks for watching. See you all later. If you enjoyed this and you are able to subscribe and leave a like and comment, let me know what your experience with this, what you liked, what you didn't like, just what you think. That's much appreciated. So see you later. Bye-bye.